Hey everyone, this is Jane with Herbal, and in this video I'm going to share some information on one of my favorite plants, the much loved rosemary. Now, rosemary is native to the Mediterranean, but now it grows almost everywhere. And if you live in a cold climate like I do here in Utah, you probably have your rosemary in a pot and you bring it in the winter and take it out in the summer. So this is one of those plants that is much loved. It's so well known. It's been around for centuries, and there are a ton of health benefits and delicious reasons to use rosemary as often as you can. So first, let's talk about some of the quirky facts that I found out about rosemary, because while I'm very familiar with using it in my cooking and medicinally, I wanted to look up and see what were some of the fun historical quirky facts about rosemary. So here's what I found. In ancient Greece, rosemary was linked to memory and learning, and the students wore sprigs during the exam because it believed it improved their memory and their focus when they were taking a test. In medieval times, rosemary had two very different uses. It was used in weddings to symbolize loyalty and fidelity, and then it was used in funerals to symbolize remembrance. One of the health benefits of rosemary is that it's really good for memory, focus, clarity. It's really good for your brain. It was used during the plague as part of the 4 Thieves vinegar blend. Rosemary is such an important piece, and what's interesting is they believed that it warded off evil spirits. And if you think about and you know about rosemary, it contains a ton of antimicrobial properties. So when the plague is happening, that's microbes at its highest, and rosemary was put into this blend along with eucalyptus, lemon, cloves, and cinnamon. Such a beautiful blend. So the 4, and then cinnamon was added as the 5th for the 5 essential oil blend. One of my favorite oil blends to put into homemade soap is the Thieves blend. Here's a fun one. European folklore claimed that it would grow the best where a woman was the head of a household, and only in the gardens of the virtuous. I actually really love that because I think that's such a quirky thing. If you're virtuous, then your rosemary will thrive and it will grow. I love some of these things that come out just from human beings walking through this planet, enjoying the plants, utilizing the plants, and then adding all this mystery and all this virtuousness to the different plants, which is fun. Now, rosemary can be grown pretty much everywhere, but there are some really good tips you need to know about growing rosemary. So first of all, it thrives in temperate climates. In fact, USDA zones 7 through 10, which is, you think about the southern part of the United States with Florida, Texas, California, you think about all the places where it stays warm. You can literally grow a hedge of evergreen of evergreen rosemary, because it is evergreen. It is such a beautiful plant. And I know people, one of my sisters in particular, who has a beautiful hedge of rosemary, and she has to keep it trimmed like a big hedge. And so all year long, think about the power of having something like that in your yard. Even just walking by it, it smells good. The aromatherapy alone is very, very healing. So it likes temperate climates. Give it at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight every day. So if you're going to plant it outside, if you have the ability and the temperate climate to do that, make sure that it's in a sunny place. So it gets 6 to 8 hours of sun every day. Plant it in a well-drained or sandy or loamy soil. It's drought resistant once it's established, which I love, and actually prefers to dry out between waterings, so don't overwater it. You can propagate rosemary easily from the cuttings, which grow faster and more reliably than the seeds, which is good to know. So if you know someone with a rosemary plant, clip off a couple of starts and plant it and let it go, which is amazing. It's also pretty pest resistant and can double as a beautiful hedge, is what I wrote. Now let's talk, well, let me add one more thing here, because this is actually really important. When you have rosemary in a pot like I do, and you take it out in the spring, you keep it outside, and then you bring it in the winter. When you bring a rosemary plant in for the winter, it's going to want something that it can't typically get indoors, and that is it's water and moisture from the air. Think about a Mediterranean plant that's down by sea level. It's going to get a lot of its moisture from the air, and rosemary is no different. So one way to mimic that is to get a spritz bottle of water, and once or twice a day, spritz your rosemary plant. Doesn't need a lot. Just squirt the leaves of it, and let it naturally get its moisture from the air, and it'll thrive more than you've ever seen it thrive. So that's a really good tip that I didn't know. For the first couple of years, I was trying to grow rosemary in a pot, and it would come in the winter, and I would keep it watered without being too watered, and it just suffered until I realized that I needed to spritz it with water to keep it in a good environment, because the air inside of a home in the winter is very dry. If you are familiar with that, you know what I'm talking about. So let's talk now about the medicinal benefits and the amazing things that rosemary has. Now, my favorite ways to use rosemary are, probably number one is the oil of rosemary, where you infuse rosemary sprigs into organic olive oil. That's my favorite. Then the essential oil of rosemary. Then you can also make a tincture of rosemary, which I'm a tincture girl. I love tinctures. I have the tincture of rosemary. I don't use it as often as I use the other things, just because I have and use the other things on a regular basis. And then I also love to use it in our cooking. And because we have a rosemary plant, I can use fresh rosemary for almost anything that we're wanting to sprinkle it on or cook with it, and you can make it into a tea. So clip a few clips of rosemary, steep the fresh rosemary with, hot boiling water, and 10, 15, 20 minutes later, rosemary does take a little bit longer to get all those benefits out. Same with if you're infusing it into an oil. What I like to do is set it in a sunny window for about 6 weeks. And typically I'll let my herbs sit for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. But rosemary, those oils and all of the medicinal benefits, they're a little bit tougher to get out, so I let it sit a little bit longer. So here is a list of so many of the benefits that rosemary has. And like I said, if this is something you're familiar with and you love cooking with it, this will just give you extra reasons to keep adding it into your daily routine. In fact, one of my favorite things and times to use it is during the winter. Cutting off a sprig of rosemary in the middle of the winter, middle of cold and flu season, sipping on some warm rosemary tea, there's nothing like it. And you can really literally go in and make your body feel better. Even if you're not sick, for me, prevention is always a beautiful way to go. The information I share with you is not meant to be medical advice. This is just a beautiful list of all of the health benefits that I have experienced and that I have researched that rosemary does for humans. Okay, so first of all, rosemary is a powerful anti-inflammatory, and it has powerful antioxidants. It's got a ton of vitamins. Number one vitamin that it's high in is vitamin C, and it's got a lot of minerals, potassium, magnesium, and calcium in particular. So think about this. You get all these benefits just from adding rosemary either to your cooking, to your salad, making a tea, whatever. It's also a vasodilator, which improves blood flow. It's kind of similar to cayenne pepper, which is a vasodilator, keeps your veins healthy, improves blood flow. This is one of the things that our heart works really hard to do, is pump blood all through our bodies, and rosemary helps your body do that, right? It relaxes the nervous system, it reduces stress because it reduces cortisol, it improves your memory, it regulates your blood sugar, it promotes liver health, supports digestion because it goes after indigestion, bloating, and it stimulates bile production. It has antimicrobial properties, so it's good for certain bacteria and fungus, and it even is really good as a natural cleaner. So you can take the essential oil of rosemary, put it in with a few drops of maybe lemon essential oil in a water bottle, and you can use that as a natural cleaner for your kitchen. And it almost seems like, I don't know if I want to use rosemary for, waste it for cleaning. But this is a very abundant plant. So think abundance. This is something that you can use And then you not only get the cleaning properties, then you're getting some aromatherapy, which the aromatherapy, if you have a diffuser, that's one of the best things that you can do is let your home feel with the sense of essential oils diffusing and breathing it in. This is one of the transportations into your body is through your nasal passages, especially with essential oils, some of my favorites. So it also stimulates hair growth, okay? So what they find is it may promote hair growth, improve scalp circulation, and reduce dandruff. Now, what I like to do is use the oil of rosemary that I've infused myself. And I don't do this very often, but just talking about this, I think I'm going to start doing it maybe once or twice a month because it's actually been a long time since I've done it. But use this in your scalp. So get the oil of rosemary, work it into your scalp, and let it sit into your scalp and your hair for 30 to 60 minutes before you shower and wash your hair. So this is something that may improve hair growth and it may stimulate hair growth. So no claims here, try it yourself. But if I was having an issue with thinning hair, this would be something I would probably do prior to every time I washed my hair. In fact, one of my favorite ways to make a homemade shampoo is with two simple ingredients, and that is aloe vera gel and the essential oil of rosemary. It's just so good for you. In fact, if that's something you've never tried, you should try it. It's a really great, easy way to make your hair. In fact, I will put a recipe in the blog that accompanies this video. So I would love to know personally what you think about rosemary and how do you use it? Think about all the things you can do with it. You can cook with it, number one. That would be the number one thing I would say. Cook with it and consume it in a tea. Okay, you can tincture it. You can make it into an oil rosemary, and then you can make it into an essential oil. And to me, having the smell of a rosemary, there's nothing like it. One of the things I love the most about having my own rosemary plant is all I have to do is simply walk by it and touch it and put a little bit of pressure on it as I kind of hold the leaf. You don't have to pick it or cut it or anything. And then you smell your hand and you get that beautiful aromatherapy right away. So think about that as taking a mood, if you have high stress, a rosemary plant is going to be your best friend. There's so many things. You can take the essential oil, rub it on your temples, rub it right underneath your nose. And of course, do a little bit of a test to see if you're sensitive to the essential oil of rosemary because it is so strong. And it is an essential oil you can use neat, which means you can use it directly on your skin. So there are so many beautiful reasons to add rosemary into your life. And I would love to know, first of all, what did I leave out? Because it seems like there's always something I leave out when it comes to all the things. But this is really my experience and the way I've utilized these things in my own life, which for rosemary has been pretty extensive because I absolutely love the flavor. I love the medicinal properties. I love having the plant in my yard. And even in the winter, I love having it indoors because I think it just adds this reminder that Mother Nature is resilient and she is here to take care of us, hold us in this beautiful hug of not just beauty, but properties that help keep our biology well. So let me know what you think about rosemary and how you use it. And thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.